next thing I know, our security comes up around me, and about 5 different policemen come up and surround me, and he whispers in my ear, "Warren, I just want you to stay close to me when the game runs out, because there's been another death threat on your life."
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to In My Bag. My name is Brian Alexander Jeffra, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by Pro Football Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. Warren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me on. Look forward to talking to you about everything that's going on in our society today. Is very chaotic. You know, you've got a pandemic going on. You've got millions of people out of work. You've got protesters in the streets now, protesting about inequalities and violence. So there's a lot of things to talk about. I'm glad I can get a chance to talk to you.
You know what? Why don't we actually just start right there? You know, what have been your feelings about those protests? Are you involved with them at all? Obviously, you're an influential member of the community. I'd love to just kind of get your thoughts right there.
Yeah, I haven't been out physically involved in the protests, but I've talked a lot about them. I've done a million different interviews on the subject. It's something that's very near and dear to me, because I came up, growing up during that time, during the civil rights movement. I watched the Watch riots when I was in Los Angeles, California, growing up. I was there through the Rodney King incidents. So I've seen and also had my own personal interactions with the police that have not been very positive. So I understand a lot of what the frustration is out there in the streets right now. And I'm definitely behind the things that they're doing, especially if they're doing it peacefully.
Absolutely. And, in the NFL specifically, there's been a lot of backlash towards Drew Brees. He said that he would never support somebody who disrespected the flag by kneeling. He subsequently apologized for that. I'd love to get your thoughts. What was your reaction initially to Drew Brees' comments, and what's your reaction now?
My first reaction was, that's not the Drew Brees that I know. Drew Brees is a guy that's been heavily involved in that community in New Orleans since he got there right after Katrina. Just recently, just donated 5 million meals to the COVID-19 people in the community, and a lot of those being African Americans. So he's a very sensitive guy when it comes to helping other people. But I think when it came to this subject, and so many people have gotten this message from this subject very wrong, that the kneeling had nothing to do with disrespecting the flag or disrespecting people that had gone to war, and that it was all about the injustices to people of color and the police brutality that's been going on in this country forever. And it's a subject that, yeah, you might have a strong feeling about what you feel, but you can't disregard what somebody else might feel about it. And that's what makes this country so great, is that we can have different opinions, but we should be able to not downgrade a person because my opinion is not the same as yours, or hate a person because my opinion is not the same as yours. Respect that person's opinion, but just agree to disagree, that you guys might not have the same opinion. But to say that you're not going to ever respect somebody or ever agree with that's just a very shallow way of thinking and a closed-minded way of thinking. And I think Drew really had a chance to sit back and figure out that maybe I should have said that a little bit differently, and now he's come back and apologized about it. I just don't know if the apology is going to be enough right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask as a follow-up question, what more does he have to do at this point to kind of regain that trust?
I think he has to get in front of a camera and do it, and let people see his face, and let people look in his eyes and see if he's being sincere. I think with his teammates, they're going to have some dialogue amongst each other and talk through this. And I think that's the great thing about sports, is that we all come together from different backgrounds and different ethnicities, but we all somehow are able to come together for one common goal. And we usually can work through our problems on a team. So hopefully they'll be able to work through these problems, because I think most guys on that team know who Drew Brees is. They've seen him there for a long time. They've seen the things that he's been involved in. So I think he can repair the damage within his team a lot faster than he will be able to do it with the fans and the people outside that don't know the real Drew Brees.
How much do you think racism still exists within the NFL?
There's no question it's still there. When I came into the league, I wanted to play quarterback, and quarterback was not a position that was being looked at very seriously by African Americans. There was a lot of stereotypes and stigmas about that, and I knew that as a young kid growing up. When I decided to play this position, it was going to be very, very tough for me because there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me when I was a young kid playing the position in the NFL. But that has changed over the last 20, 25 years, and you see some of the top quarterbacks in the league today are African American quarterbacks. But I think when you look at coaching, when you look at general managers, when you look at ownership, there's still a lot lacking in those areas. And when you see that they have to put a rule in place called the Rooney Rule to create more opportunities for minorities in coaching and also in upper management positions, that shows you that there might be some discrimination going on and some racism going on if you have to incentivize people in order to get them to hire African Americans. So yes, there still is racism in the league. The commissioner, I know, is aware of it. That's why he's trying to do things to strengthen that Rooney Rule to create more opportunities for minorities.
What did you think of the proposed rule of incentivizing them through draft picks?
I didn't like that. I don't really like the fact that you have to incentivize owners at all because it shouldn't be that way. You should be prompted to hire the most qualified guys, and we've seen over the years how many successful African American general managers or successful coaches that have gone on and led their teams to Super Bowls, whether it's Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh or Tony Dungy when he was in the league with Indianapolis. African American coaches can do those things. It's just a matter of giving them the opportunities. It's just like when I came into the league, it's just a matter of giving me an opportunity and I can show you what I can get done. And I think that's what turned things around for African American quarterbacks. Enough of them were playing at a high enough level that it opened the doors for more guys. You would think the same thing would happen in coaching. You've seen enough coaches be successful and take their teams to the mountaintop. You would think more guys would get more opportunities, and it just hasn't happened that way.
Do you think the fact that there's not a majority owner who is black in the NFL, do you think that that's one of the reasons why there are only 3 head coaches who are black and 2 general managers?
Yeah, that would go a long way if you had an African American owner in ownership, because now you're able to pick the people that you want to run your football team, whether it's the president, whether it's the general manager, whether it's the head coach. It all starts from the top, and there's kind of like a good old boys network in the NFL right now as far as who the owners are. And I don't know if there has been enough African American ownership that has tried to apply into the league or not. But we need to have more African American ownership, no question about it. That'll create a lot more opportunities for minorities.
I was going to say, it seems like not impossible, but like, how do you break into that circle? Obviously money, can open a lot of doors.
You definitely have to come with a lot of money, and you definitely have to come with hopefully a squeaky clean background and things like that. They're going to be looking to scrutinize every little thing that has happened to you in your life before they bring you into that. And then you have to be able to get along with them. So I'm sure it's going to be a very difficult process for anybody who applies for ownership in the National Football League, but there needs to be a way to let that happen as well if there's people out there that have the wherewithal to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that there'll be a black majority NFL owner in our lifetime?
I think it can be, yes. We're starting to see more and more African Americans, create the type of wealth that it takes. The problem is these franchises just continually keep getting more and more expensive. The value of them, it just keeps rising. I mean, you're talking anywhere from 2 to 3, some of these $4 billion to get one of these franchises. So that's a lot of money that you have to put together. It doesn't always have to come from one individual, but the league really shuns down on a bunch of different people being investors in a team. They would rather have that one minority guy. So that one minority guy's got to come up with quite a bit of revenue.
Absolutely. You talked about some of those great quarterbacks that have come up, some of those great black quarterbacks that are making a name for themselves. What's it like for you to be the only black quarterback in the NFL Hall of Fame?
It's something I'm really proud of because I felt like it needed to happen because we didn't have one in there. And me being the first one, I think always brings notoriety to it. But now it's time for me to have somebody in there with me. I've been in there since 2006. That was, 14 years ago. And I think there are other guys out there that deserve the recognition to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You look at, Steve McNair and what he did when he was with the Tennessee Titans. You look at Donovan McNabb and the career he had at the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you look at Randall Cunningham, just one of the great players in this league as well. So there are definitely guys that deserve to be considered a little bit more strongly than they have been for the Pro Football Hall of Fame that are African American quarterbacks.
Why do you think they haven't gotten more consideration?
I'm really not sure because every guy is kind of picked over and prodded as far as what he did well, what he didn't do well, what his teams did, what his teams didn't do. I really couldn't tell you because I'm not a voter, and I really haven't asked around enough. But I guess everybody has some little flaw, whether it's not having enough Super Bowls or whatever it might be, to get them there. But we haven't had but a couple of quarterbacks go in the last so many years anyway. I think Peyton Manning will probably go in next year in his first year of eligibility. And I think the last one to go in was Brett Favre. And even Kurt Warner had to wait, 3 or 4 times before he got in. So it's not an easy process, and you have so many great players at other positions that are stacked up waiting to get in. I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned kind of coming up and, black quarterbacks. You didn't really see any. You were one of the ones who had to kind of break in. What was it like being a black quarterback in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
It was difficult only because if you were looking to go to the next level, like me being in high school, I'm looking at, what African-American quarterbacks are in major college at passing schools. Not so much running the football or running the option, running the wishbone or the veer or something that I wasn't doing. I wasn't that type of athlete. I could throw the ball, but you didn't see a lot of African Americans at passing schools, and that's where I wanted to go to a school where they threw the football because that was my strength. And then when I finally got a chance to go to the University of Washington, we didn't really throw the ball that much up there. We threw it enough, but we had a very conservative way of playing the game up there because we didn't have as much talent at some of the skill positions. So we played it closer to the vest. But then when I started looking towards, okay, can I go to the NFL? There wasn't a lot of African-American quarterbacks in the NFL at that time as well. And you start wondering how difficult it's going to be to get there. Are you going to get an opportunity? And that's all I had always ever wanted was the opportunity to show what I could do. I didn't want anybody to give me anything. It was just a matter of, did somebody have enough belief in me that I could play the position? And if I wasn't good enough, then I'll walk away from the game and move on and do something else. But to not be able to get an opportunity to play in a country and in a league where you grew up as a dream, and that dream turned into goals, to be able to get that opportunity, it was very, very heartbreaking for me to hear that I wasn't going to get that chance to play quarterback. That's one of the reasons I went to Canada, is because they were going to give me a chance to play quarterback, and that's all I wanted from anybody.
How much racism did you experience personally during your time as a quarterback?
At the University of Washington, quite a bit, because when I first went there, we were a new program. Don James had just taken over the program. They were 2-9 the year before we got there, and he had to start recruiting and create the type of talent that it takes to have a winning team in the Pac-10 or the Pac-8 at that time. And we didn't win a lot of games at first. We were 6-5 the first year, but we got off to a slow start, and the booing started as far as me, because I was the first African American to ever start at the University of Washington. So that was something that was new up in Seattle, and I took a lot of that criticism. And you as a quarterback, you understand you're going to get criticism if you're not playing well in that, but the criticism I was getting became a little bit more personal, became a little bit more nasty. It became a little bit more name calling and all those different things, as opposed to just, booing because a guy or a team wasn't playing well. So I could definitely tell the difference. And it was very hurtful because I'm 18 years old. I'm away from home for the first time, and I'm hearing 60,000 people boo every time I ran on the football field. And it was a very tough pill to swallow.
Did that continue in the NFL?
When I got back to the NFL, it did, yes. When I was in Canada, never. I never heard any of that. I heard booing because we were the team on the road, and everybody's going to boo the team on the road. But at home, you never heard any type of booing about the home team. You don't boo your own home team unless they are just so bad that they deserved it. But yeah, when I got to Houston, it was very, very nasty, and it became again a lot of the name calling. And now at this time, I had gone through it before as an 18-year-old, so I kind of knew what to expect. But I also had a family at this time. I had 3 kids by the time I went to play in Houston. And now my kids are in the stands having to listen to this and listen to the name calling and the things they're calling their dad. And now you have to try and make sense of it to them somehow, that what was going on and why people are doing this and talking about their dad that way. So that made it more tough on me. I could have dealt with it on my own, but when you're having to talk to a 7-year-old or 8-year-old, it makes it a little bit tougher.
Yeah, what do you say to your children in a moment like that?
You just have to tell them that everybody doesn't always agree with who's playing. There's a lot of people that are sometimes a little bit ignorant. There's some people that are a little bit bigoted and don't like certain colored people, and they lash out. And you just have to be bigger than who they are and what they are, and somehow try and drown that out. And what I had to do, I went ahead and bought myself a box, a suite, and that's where my family watched the game, so they would be away from any of that type of talk or those type of antics.
Was there ever a specific moment where something happened that really stands out to you, where you felt like, this has gone too far?
Yeah, I remember when I was in Cleveland. We were playing the Browns, and it was on my birthday, and I had a really good game. I threw 5 touchdown passes that day. They brought me out of the game the last couple of minutes, put our backup in, and he's running the clock out just to get the game over with. And I'm on the sideline. I'm in a really good mood. I'm thinking about what am I going to do when I get back to Houston that night for my birthday. And next thing I know, our security comes up around me, and about 5 different policemen come up and surround me. And he whispers in my ear, "Warren, I just want you to stay close to me when the game runs out, because there's been another death threat on your life, and we're going to walk you off the field to make sure you get off the field okay." That's when I thought, this has gone too far, that we're talking about a football game, and somebody wants to take my life because I'm playing for a team, or they don't like the way I play, or whatever the reason was that they wanted to do away with me. I don't know how serious it was, but from talking to our security guys, this had happened a number of times, and they just hadn't told me. But I guess this one seemed to be a little bit more serious, and they wanted to know if I wanted to know in the future if I ever got any other ones. And I told them I didn't really want to know, because it's going to affect the way you play. But yeah, that's when you think it's gone a little bit too far, when somebody's talking about taking your life over a football game.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit about how hard it was for you to even break in as a quarterback, whether in college or obviously the NFL. Do you think that was because there was this racism and this feeling that a black quarterback couldn't succeed?
Yeah, I think there was stereotypes and stigmas about us being able to be leaders. Could we be leaders? Could we be guys that could make quick decisions? Could they make decisions in the most critical times of games? Could we be the type of leader that the rest of the football team is going to follow? Can we be the face of a franchise, the person that everybody's going to look at when they see a certain team? That's the face that they're going to see. Can we be the guy that the owner can take with him when he goes to the country club and introduces him to all of his different buddies? All those different things that were talked about. Those were some of the reasons why I think African American quarterbacks weren't looked highly upon, and were held back from being given those opportunities. So you can't say it was pure racism, because there were plenty of African American players at different positions, but it definitely was at that position.
You mentioned going to the country club, and I've seen some really strong, powerful statements about, like, if you're going to cheer for a black player on a Saturday or a Sunday, you have to be willing to have them into your home,
Right.
on a Monday or Tuesday. From your perspective, number one, were you given those opportunities to kind of have those meetings, and do you think that's still an issue today? Is that they're okay with a black quarterback being great on a Sunday, but when it comes time for Monday and Tuesday, they don't want to have them over for dinner.
I think for the most part, they do. I think the type of owners that are in the league right now um, are much more open to that. I don't know how much you're invited over their house for dinner, but they'll definitely like take you to different functions that they might be involved in. If they're involved in a charity function and they want you to be there on their behalf or be one of their guests. I remember when I was in Houston, um, Bud Adams, our owner, was a big supporter of George Bush, and when he had a big rally there in Houston, he wanted me to be there and be on stage, and so I did it, for him, and different things like that, different charity functions that he had. If he wanted me to be there, I was going to do that. So um, I'm sure he felt comfortable enough to have me at those types of things, and I think it's the same way now. A lot more wide open. If a guy is helping your team win, I think you're going to be behind him more than anything else, whether he likes you or not.
Absolutely. We talked a lot about the young black quarterbacks in the NFL. I know that you've mentored and had relationships with, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Deshaun Watson. What's that relationship like? How are you helping them?
I just wanted them to know when I met all of them early coming into the league that I wanted to be a sounding board for them, because they've got a lot of people in their lives as it is. They've got, advisors, they've got relatives, they've got their own coaches on the staff who are coaching them a certain way. And but I just wanted them to know, as an African American quarterback, none of those people can say or do anything unless they've walked in the shoes of another African American quarterback. And I've done it. I've done everything that they're going to do, and been down those roads that they're going to go through, and nobody else can really talk from those terms. So I just wanted to let them know that if they have any questions for me, I'm always there for them. So our relationships are based off of whenever they think they need me, and I keep in touch with them through texting, and send them positive messages if they maybe didn't have as great a game, or give a suggestion wherever I think one might be given. But again, I'm not out there trying to coach these guys, because they have a lot of people that are there to do that. But I just want them to know that there are guys like me out there that are in their corner, and if they need somebody to lean on, they can lean on me. Like Russell Wilson, I'm with Seattle. He can come up to me on the plane and sit down next to me, and we can talk about that past game, and he'll ask me about different situations, what I thought, and things like that. So just to be able to have somebody to sound things off of, that's what I want to be for these guys.
Have you spoken with them during this time, specifically over the last week when the protests have been going on?
I have not. I have not talked to him, and I know he's got a lot going on. He's really involved in this, him and his wife, and they've been all over the place. But yeah, we haven't talked.
One of the things that's interesting, Cam Newton still unsigned, an MVP just a couple of years ago. I'm wondering, do you think that if it was Matt Ryan who had like a similar injury and was coming off of a similar injury, he was the MVP right after Cam was, do you think he'd already be signed?
I don't know. It depends on the team. It depends on the style. It depends on the injury that he had, and were teams able to look at that injury and see if he's healthy or not. That's one of the things that's hurting Cam, is that people can't have their doctors look at him and examine him. People can't sit down with Cam and find out who Cam is, as far as how he would relate to their football team, because Cam's a different personality. He's a flashy guy. He's a big personality guy. He comes with a lot of swag to him, and that he likes fashion, and so that's not for everybody. So I think the fact that he hasn't been healthy the last 2 years, people need to be able to see that he is, and the fact that they need to sit him down and see exactly how he fits into the type of leadership they want for their team. Those are the things that are holding him back right now. So if Cam is healthy, there's no question he can help 20 teams in this league. That's how talented he is. But there's not 20 jobs open right now, because we're almost at the start of training camp here in the next month. So it's going to be tough for him to find the type of job that he's looking for. He might have to back up somewhere for a year before he finally gets that opportunity that he's looking for.
You mentioned Russell Wilson and kind of what he's doing, to fight racism and bigotry. We see Dak Prescott donating $1 million. What does it mean as one of the pioneer black quarterbacks in the NFL to see these younger quarterbacks really taking the reins and helping push forward this initiative?
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm most proud of throughout my whole career is that I was able to help the way I played. You look at the way Doug Williams, winning a Super Bowl in 1988, with the way Randall Cunningham played. We all played during the same era, and we all played at a very high level. And I think that's what helped open the door for that next generation of guys. So I'm proud of these guys, the way not only that they're playing on the field, but the way they're handling themselves in their communities. These guys are all leaders in their communities. They understand that they're leaders in their communities, and they're not only just saying things, but they're doing things physically to help other people. So you're talking about some really, really good guys that are playing the position not only as athletes but also as people, and that's what you look for in that position. And that's what leadership is all about. It's not only leadership in your locker room, but it's leadership in your community where you live. Because you can look at a lot of teams, and in the NFL, the quarterback in a community might be more popular than the mayor in that city. A lot of people might know the quarterback's name over the mayor in that city. So a quarterback brings a lot of leadership to that community if he's willing to take on that type of responsibility and get actively involved in his community. And a lot of these quarterbacks are doing that, and they're doing it at a very, very high level.
We talked a little earlier about some of the issues in terms of leadership positions for Black men. One of the things that the NFL did was they came out with a statement earlier when this was first starting, and it was very much in support of the movement, but it hadn't really given any specifics about what the NFL is going to do to fix some of those issues internally. I know that we talked about the Rooney Rule, but I'd love to kind of get your feeling about what the NFL needs to do next and their initial response.
Well, there's no question. I think they're behind this whole movement. They're encouraging their players to get more involved in it. You see players from all the different teams either in these rallies or leading these rallies. They're being outspoken about it. They're giving back to their communities, and what the league needs to do. And I know they've given a lot of money not only to COVID-19, but they've also donated money to the Players Coalition that's been going on in the last 3 or 4 years. And there's been a lot of different legislation change and different things in different cities that people can look up on. So there's been a conscious effort by the league to try and do as much as they can to help. Can they do more? Yes, they can, and I think they will. And I think that the suggestion that they're trying to make about improving the Rooney Rule, even though some of these suggestions haven't been great so far, at least they're conscious of it, and they know that something needs to be done to create more opportunities for minorities. So that part of it, I'm encouraged about. But again, yeah, there could be more done by the league, but they are doing some things, and I think they're working on some other things that they're going to probably make known here pretty soon.
Absolutely. We talked about that it would help if there was a Black owner. Do you think it would help if the NFL had a Black commissioner? And do you think that there ever will be a Black NFL commissioner?
That could possibly happen. You look at Troy Vincent right now, who's second in command in the league. He definitely could be a guy that could be commissioner of the league. I don't know what they'll be looking for in the next commissioner, but you got to remember the next commissioner is basically, he's going to work for the owners, and the owners have to have somebody that they feel really comfortable about. And if they have a tough time hiring head coaches and general managers, I think it's going to be even a tougher time to hire a commissioner. But you just never know, because I don't know the relationship that Troy has with all the different owners. I would think it's pretty good. But a Black commissioner would be very, very interesting. It definitely would be the first in our regular sports. I know the Canadian Football League had a Black commissioner 2 years ago, and that might have been the first one in professional sports. But as far as here in the United States, yeah, that would be huge.
It's interesting to me that it seems like a larger majority now feels a different way about Colin Kaepernick. You know, from your experience, do you feel like he's been vindicated and starting to get the proper due he had? Because we talked about people opening doors. I think he actually helped open doors for people to feel comfortable about talking about this now. Obviously, it took some years, but I'd love to just get your thoughts about Kaepernick.
Yeah, I think what he's done. He's really sacrificed a lot. He sacrificed his career. I'm sure, even though he got a chance to play in the league, he would have much rather been still playing if he could. But he decided to take a stand for something that he really believed in, and I'm sure he knew he was taking a risk when he did that. That if things worked out, it'd be great. I can have this platform to talk about something that's very important to me, but I can still play professional football. Well, the professional football part of it was taken away from him, and that's a shame because a lot of people didn't understand what he was trying to say, and the message got really, really messed up in the beginning as far as what he was talking about when he kneeled. A lot of people were turned off by it. They were disgusted by it. They felt that he was disrespecting our flag, disrespecting the national anthem. As much as people tried to say it had nothing to do with the flag or that, I think the nastier it got, and I think a lot of that was just an excuse by people that they just didn't want to talk about anything that had to do with injustice, anything to do with police brutality. They just wanted to play. They just wanted to watch football, and that was it. They were just closed-minded, closed-eyes to everything that was going on because of what's happened with George Floyd, and the way he was murdered, uh, almost like execution style in front of everyone, so visible, so graphic. I think it really touched a nerve, not only in the African Americans, to bring this subject up again, but also with all different types of races. They saw this not only in our country, they saw it all over the world, and they saw it over and over again in just a very slow death. And you're looking at a man that's saying he can't breathe. He's asking for his mom. I mean, just the way everything happened, it really woke up this country and woke up a lot of people around the world that this has to stop. And um, this made it so much more graphic than anything else that we've seen in some of the other senseless murders that have happened.
Have you ever personally been impacted by police targeting or police brutality, and based on your race?
Yeah, I've never had the brutality, but I've definitely had the profiling and the targeting. Um, I've been pulled over many, many, many times just for the car that I was driving. That was the first question asked: how can you afford this type of car? And then the fact that I'm more of a privileged African American because I have some notoriety and because I'm a professional athlete. They see my license plate. If they don't recognize me or see my license, and they see my name, and all of a sudden the whole attitude changes, and it's like, okay, just be careful and be on your way. But I can just imagine what it's like for guys that aren't as privileged as me and don't have the name recognition, what they go through. It could have been, it's a lot worse. So, and we've seen what a lot worse is. So, I've been fortunate, but I have been stopped way too many times unnecessarily just because I'm driving a nice car, which shouldn't be the case.
Absolutely. What do you hope comes from all of this?
I'm hoping there's a lot more change. There's more reform in the police department, the way they do things. I think there should be more punishment to officers who get out of line and do some of the things that we saw. Um, this officer that's involved in this murder had 18 different complaints on his record. I mean, how many times do you get a chance to have a job where you have that many things on your record and you still have a job? There should be a limit to where if you get to a certain limit where it's 3 or 5 things on your record, you should be out of there. A lot of these guys are protected by their unions, and that keeps them, with their jobs. So something has to be done there. And then, people have to get out, and I think they have to vote. And I think you're going to get more change in legislation, more change in laws being made, and more change in people in office if you use your right to vote. And this whole thing has really created a big support by young people, and a lot of these young people need to get out and register to vote, and they need to use that vote when it's time to vote to make all these changes that they want. And that's one of the best ways to do it. But a lot of it's going to have to come through dialogue. A lot of it's going to have to come through negotiating, and hopefully people in those positions will be open-minded and listen to what the community is saying on what they would like to see different, and some of these things will start to be changed, because this is serious, is what's going on there right now. These young people are serious, they're motivated, they're angry, and they have a right to be, and hopefully this will make some change in our society.
Agreed completely. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us for The Big Lead. This is Brian Jeffra saying goodbye. Lauren, again, thank you. You were great.
Brian, thank you very much, my man, and good luck with the show, and look forward to talking to you somewhere down the road about maybe some better subjects.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lauren.
All right.